कर्पूरगौरं करुणावतारं संसारसारं भुजगेन्द्रहारं सदा वसन्तं हृदयारविन्दे भवं भवानी सहितं नमामि।
All life on this planet, anything that you take, a worm, an insect, a bird, an animal, a tree, or a human being, the only thing that every life is aspiring for is, it is trying to become a full-fledged life. An earthworm is trying to be a full-fledged earthworm. A grasshopper is trying to be a full-fledged grasshopper. A mango tree is trying to be a full-fledged mango tree. So is a human being. Only thing is, we know what is a full-fledged earthworm, we know what is a full-fledged grasshopper, we know what is a full-fledged everything, but we do not know what is a full-fledged human being. Doesn't matter what you do, somehow seems inadequate. No matter where you get in your life, you will see there is one more thing to do. Never does a human being come to a place where he thinks this is it. That only other people say when you're dead, this is it. So, the essential nature of life, not just human life, every life is, it is longing to become a full-fledged life. So is a human being. So wherever you may be in your life right now, you want to be something more. If that something more happens, you want to be something more. If that happens, something more. You will see whatever your aspirations right now as students, suppose all of them get fulfilled within the next 1 year, you will immediately see, you will have another aspiration. If everything that you want gets all fulfilled by tomorrow morning, you will see, you will have much more things to do. Because the very nature of being human is such, you always want to be something more. But if you really look at it, what you want is not something more, what you want is a limitless expansion. Even if I make you the king of this planet, don't look at me hopefully, huh? I will not make such a blunder. But suppose we make you the king of this planet, do you believe you will be fulfilled? You will look at the stars. If you have this planet in your hands, you will look at the stars. If I give you one galaxy, you will look at the next galaxy. This is the nature of the human being. There is something within us which is always longing to become boundless. But in most human beings, because of their fear of suffering, they think that if they desire for something and it doesn't happen, they will suffer. Because of the fear of suffering, this longing to become boundless is finding a very constipated expression. This constipated expression of longing for the boundless gets labeled as ambition. What you think is ambition is just a constipated expression for a boundless expansion that every life is longing for. But you will see in your life, no matter what happens, you will see you will want something more. This, somebody may label it as greed, it is not about greed. Because the very nature of the human being is such, no matter how many pacifist philosophies you teach him, you cannot contain him. People have told you, you must be happy with what you have, whatever God has given you, that should be the right thing for you. But it's not worked for one human being on the planet. It only works either when you're very sick or very old. Otherwise, if you have little energy coursing through your body, you want to do something more. So it's not more. A human being, there is something within you which doesn't like boundaries. If I imprison you in a 5 by 5 cubicle, you will feel terribly imprisoned. Then we will liberate you tomorrow into a 10 by 10 cubicle. You will feel wonderful for a day, but again you will feel imprisoned. The next day we will release you into a 100 by 100 cubicle. You will feel really great, but in 3 days again you'll want to break that boundary. It doesn't matter where I set the boundary. The moment you become conscious of the boundary, you want to break that boundary. This is the nature of the human being. So there is something within you which does not like boundaries. So if you do not like boundaries, what should you seek? That's a question. As long as you live in the physical nature of the existence, the very nature of physicality is a defined boundary. Only because there is a defined boundary, physical is possible. We can call this a physical body because it has boundaries. If I pull out all the boundaries, this will not be physical anymore. So somewhere, unconsciously, every human being is wanting to touch a dimension beyond physical nature. If you touch a dimension beyond the physical nature, then we use the much maligned and corrupted word called spirituality. Spiritual means not looking up or looking down. Spiritual means your experience of life has transcended the limitations of being physical. Something more than physical is happening to you. This means you are on the spiritual process. So this longing is there in every human being. So essentially, what you do in your life, our activity is not about us. Activity is about the world that we live in. Today, you are here in 21st century, so you guys are in IIT. Suppose you were here 5,000 years ago, where would you be?
The jungle.
Huh? No. You know, 5,000 years ago they were talking Mahabharata, Ramayana, so you would be in one of those armies trying to shoot an arrow. You can't shoot anything. You would try to learn to fight with somebody in a sword or something else of the day. I'm saying, your mind, your application, your fulfillment in activity would be all that type of activity relevant to the times. Our activity is always about the times in which we exist. It's not about us really. What times do we exist? What is most needed right now? That's what we do. But how to be is the question. If it comes to how to be, there's only one way to be, that somewhere in every human being there is a longing to expand beyond physical limitations. This is happening in 4 different ways. If it finds a very basic physical expression, we call this sexuality. You're trying to expand the boundaries of who you are. What you are not, you're trying to include as yourself. This is what sexuality is. If it finds an emotional expression, we call this love. Once again, something that is not you, you're trying to make it a part of you. If it finds a mental expression, it gets labeled as ambition, greed, conquest, or simply shopping. If it finds a conscious expression, then we call it yoga. Yoga means not twisting your body or turning your body, yoga means union. In some way, consciously you learnt how to obliterate the boundaries of your individual nature. Now your ability to experience yourself beyond your physical existence has become a living reality for you. This is everybody's longing, but it finds constipated expression. Instead of that, if you find a conscious expression, life will be very, very different.
So, you said that it's a very continuous journey of expansion and like having this conscious expression would make it very different. But this is very easier said than done. So like doing it is a journey altogether. So if I'm on this journey, so I'd have personal aspirations, I'd have spiritual aspirations. So, but there's also a conflict with the societal life that I live in. There are responsibilities on me from my family. There are some social foundations that I have while trying to be limitless. So how do I cope with this conflict? Or in fact, I'd like to ask that, is it even possible that we are able to draw a synthesis between the two?
You're talking like a much married man. This is usually a diplomatic way of saying I'm married. See, we need to understand this. Though everybody is thinking they are shaping their own lives and whatever, the human longing to expand is not your doing. This is the nature of life itself. It's not something that I aspire for a spiritual process, there's no such thing. Every human being is longing for expansion. Will they long for it consciously or unconsciously? That's all the choices. Anyway, every human being is longing for expansion. Even the beggar on the street is looking for little expansion of his territory, isn't it? Yes or no? So, wanting to expand is not your doing or my doing. This is the nature of life, it's invested in us. Now, what we are doing in the world today is just a question of the times in which we exist. Okay, we have little choices, whether you want to do art, music or engineering or medicine or something like this, but essentially, all these activities are supposed to be for human well-being, isn't it? So fundamentally, there's only one business of human well-being. Question is, what is your competence? What is the nature of your, intelligence, so that how you could be most useful, so you will choose that. This does not determine. You doing an engineering program or a medical program or an art program should not decide the nature of who you are. That only decides the nature of your activity, not the nature of who you are.
So continuing with this, then what is the role of a guru in a person's journey? How do we, as students or as people over here, how do we find a guru? And how do we know that that person is a guru or is actually leading us to the correct path?
If he confuses the hell out of you and you still like him, he's your guru. If somebody is trying to help you to find certainty in an uncertain world, he is not your guru. He's trying to sing a lullaby to you. You understand? The nature of life is such that every moment it is changing and evolving into something else. But somebody tries to create a certainty, don't worry, God will take care of you, God is holding your hand, everything will be fine, everything will be fine. They've been saying this for a long time, but life has buggered people pretty badly in so many ways. Yes? So, this is not about inventing a psychological certainty and getting completely delinked from the reality of the existence. The nature of the existence is such, nothing can be stagnant here. It is only the dynamic nature from atomic to cosmic that is keeping the existence going, including the human being and every other life. So, a guru is not somebody who will give you solace. He is a solution, because the only reason why you may need him is because it's an unfamiliar terrain. See, every year I trek in the Himalayas, then in the Indian part or generally now in Nepal and Tibet. There's this Sherpa guy who leads me on. Well, your lungs will be in your mouth. You're at 18,000 feet and your lungs is in your mouth and you're determined, you're going step by step. There are two roads, this looks nice and easy. This guy says, He won't say, Sadhguruji, please, this is the way. No, he's like, He's carrying my bags and he's illiterate, but he says, like this. Without argument, I follow. Though this looks better to me, I just follow, because I know he knows the terrain better than me. I know the mountains very well, but still I know he knows it better than me. Once I recognize that, it is sensible to follow him. If you do your own thing, you won't last. The same thing goes with the inner terrain. When you go into a terrain that's unfamiliar to you, it's best to go with somebody who's already walked the terrain. Otherwise, to find your neighborhood You may go around the planet and come back. That is also one way. But it's a brief life.
So, I want to bring to a different theme.
Why are you copying questions, huh?
I just wanted to make
I've
sure
seen
that
people
all-
are copying answers, but
to so as students, a lot of us especially in an institute like IIT, we did a survey and we found that a lot of students are under stress, and we're used to a mechanism of the reward and punishment mechanism. So till the time there's no sword hanging on us, till the time there's no deadline, we'll procrastinate and we'll wait for things to happen, and that's when we do. And when we talk to students, they say that, I think this is the way we know how to work, this is the way we are trained. And related to this, many of them say that fear of failure sometimes motivates them. And they see that this is essential and this is how things have to happen. Is that so that this is the only way we can work? Or because it sometimes makes us feel very restricted, and yeah, is there a way where we can be free of this?
so let's understand this in a more fundamental way. See, when we say stress, when we say anxiety, when we say depression, when we say misery, or when we say joy, when we say bliss, when we say ecstasy or love or whatever, all human experience comes from within you. Is this so, all of you? I'm asking for a higher opinion. Is this so? All human experience happens from within you. At least what happens from within you must happen the way you want it. Yes or no? Now, you're still in a university. Once you step out into the larger world, this is a very protected world you're living in. If you're thinking sword is hanging on your head, you'll have a bomb ticking once you step out. This is a very comfortable life, very protected life. Here nothing is hanging on you, okay? Yes, you need to pass your examinations, whatever. There are some challenges, I'm not saying no. But all human experience happens from within you. Whatever comes from within you, can I assume that you're doing it? If something sweet comes out of you right now, can I assume you're saying something sweet?
Yes.
Something nasty comes out of you, can I assume you're saying it?
Yes.
Or is it your ego?
I think the ego then.
Because this has become the way of the world. People have found all kinds of fall guys, spiritual fall guys and civil fall guys. If they do something wonderful, they say it's me. If they do something nasty, they say it's that Mr. Ego, that guy does this. If they do something wonderful in the world, they say it's me. If something little goes wrong in their life, they'll find one little guy here and say it's because of him. If something big goes wrong in their life, they'll find one big guy there and say it's because of him. This guy is missing. This guy needs to come into the play. Only when this guy comes into play, you call that life. Yes? When this guy plays, this is called life. If that guy plays, I don't know what it means. This guy plays, this is rubbish. Everything that goes on in my life, somebody who can't stand up to me, he is responsible. Something big goes wrong in my life, he is responsible. This one is missing. One who is missing, how can he experience life? How can he create life? How can he know life? So this guy has to come into play. So one important thing that needs to happen in the world today is, we have to move from religion to responsibility. We have been slinking around with life. When things happen, I'm there. When it don't happen, somewhere. No. If you understand, it's me who is causing anxiety to myself, not my examination. When I join the institution, I know there are going to be examinations, isn't it? What is causing anxiety is not something else. My inability to handle my own thought and my own emotion, isn't it? If it so happened, your left hand is free right now. Your left hand is free. Suppose it pops up and punches you in the face. What will you do? I will ask him to restrain the left hand. If it doesn't work, we'll ask them to tie it up. If it doesn't work at all, if it's going to pull out your eyeballs, then we may have to amputate it. Yes or no? Right now, that is all you're trying to do. To beat the anxiety, you'll drown yourself in alcohol. To beat the anxiety, you burn yourself down with smoke. What you're trying to do is amputate yourself because you don't know how to handle the potential of being human. Your problem is very evolutionary. When I say evolutionary, see, do you know, I mean, you're all engineering students, so I'm asking, do you know? Do you know the DNA difference between you and a chimpanzee is only 1.23%? 1.23% is not much of a difference, isn't it? Yes or no? Physiologically, that is how close to a chimpanzee you are. But in terms of your intelligence, intellect and awareness, you are worlds apart from a chimpanzee. Or in other words, your intellect or the cerebral activities in evolutionary scale, it's of recent origin. It's new. You still not learned how to deal with it. You have an intelligence for which you don't have a stable enough base. The only and only reason you suffer either misery or anxiety or depression or whatever, this may sound very cruel to you, but the reality is this, that your own intelligence has turned against you. It is like you've been given a sharp knife, you don't know how to handle it. Every day you keep cutting yourself and you think there is something wrong with the knife. No, you don't have a steady hand. If your intelligence worked for you 100%, would you create blissfulness or misery for yourself? Joy or misery, please choose right now, I'm going to bless you. For yourself, you clearly know highest level of pleasantness is what you want. What you want for your neighbor may be debatable. What you want for yourself is very, very clear, isn't it? So you create ghosts of your own and try to fight them. Can I tell you a joke? You okay? No, because you're from Delhi, I'm asking you. An Indian man, probably from an IIT, went to United States, of course as a technology person to start with. Then he started dabbling with some investments, then he started playing the stock market. In 1996, I think, 4 or 6, I'm not sure, in one of those years, he had a windfall in the American stock market. That year, he earned the highest amount of money on the US stock market, which is not a small amount, it's a huge sum. He was already over 60 years of age. Just the previous year, he was divorced, timely divorce had happened, because in California law, you have to share 50% with the wife. Just 1 year ahead of this windfall, the wife had left him. And he wanted to spend this money upon himself. So he bought himself a 1932 Ferrari for $36 million. He bought a Beverly Hills home for $80 million. Then he was over 60, he wants to live long, so he thought he needs a medical checkup. In Northern California, there are medical institutions which are swankier than 7-star hotels. And you can go there, not some dreary medical checkup in 1 day, everything. 15 days, you can get admitted for a fortnight and you can choose your tests. Unlike you can't choose your tests. You can choose your tests, all kinds of esoteric tests are there. You can choose what kind of tests you want to go through. So the entire space was nice, they appointed a very pretty-looking young woman to take care of him. He was enjoying the entire process. On the fourth day, he was feeling very relaxed in the evening and he was lying on his bed. And fortunately, what should happen in the toilet happened upon the bed. He felt very embarrassed and he did not know how to handle this mess. Not knowing how to handle this mess, he was just looking how to do this. Just then, he heard this young woman coming towards the room. In America, fortunately, young ladies cannot walk quietly, they walk talk, 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 talk. So when he heard this talk, 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 he knows that she is coming. He does not want this young lady to see the mess on the bed. So he just gathered all the hospital white sheets and threw it out of the fifth floor window. Down below, a regular man was going home from a party. And it's such an unfair world. Because a man is expected to walk on a round planet and the damn thing is spinning all the time. This you realize only when you have had a few drops too many or a few drops between your ears are gone. So he was walking sideways and slowly finding his way home. Then the sheets came and covered him. Then he screamed and yelled and fought with the sheets. It took him over 2 minutes to get the sheets down. Then the sheets got down and he was looking at the sheets, dazed. The security arrived, hearing all this commotion. They said, "What's all the commotion about?" The man said, "It looks like I've beaten the shit out of a ghost." So, it's your thought. What happens in your mind is your thought, isn't it? It's your emotion. Unfortunately, our education systems from an early age have not taught you this much, how to handle your thought, how to handle your emotion. If you did not know how to handle your hands, it would be a mess, isn't it? This you will know if you come to Tamil Nadu. You will suddenly realize Tamil people can use their fingers far better than you. That is, on a banana leaf, they will put rice and rasam. You will see it'll go all over the place, but they won't let a drop go anywhere. In 2 minutes it'll be dry, just with their fingers. So, everybody can get to use what they have much better than the way they're handling it right now, isn't it? If you knew how to handle your thought and emotion, would you think anxiety is a problem? Would you think stress is a problem, tension is a problem? Would you think such things would exist for you? So essentially, it is our inability to handle our own thought process, our own emotions, that all this is happening. Instead of learning to handle it, we are giving labels to all our inabilities, all kinds of exotic titles for ourselves. No, this is not the way to go about it. I'm telling you, this is the easiest part of your life, being in a protected institution like this, getting the best of academics, and you just have to pass an examination, that's all. Once you step out, it's another game.
You said that this is the easiest part of life as students, but we see that a lot of youngsters fall into the clutches of stress, depression, and to cope with that, they go into the addictions like alcohol, drugs, porn, internet, etc. And they think that it will give them relief.
I didn't know internet was along with the drugs.
So, how to deal with them?
Look at me, I'm always stoned. Never been on a substance, but you must understand, whatever stimulus you may take from outside, Essentially, human experience of all kinds is caused only from within. The question is only, are you on push start or are you on self-start? Which is better technologically? Self-start. So, if I teach you, suppose I teach you that you can simply sit here and be totally blissed out, more stoned than anybody on the campus. At the same time, you're fully aware. Would you go for it? Would you go for it? Fully stoned, fully conscious, would you go for it? See, the only problem with your alcohol, drugs, everything is not a moral issue. It is a life issue because it destroys life. It's not a morality that this is good, this is bad, that's not the point. The point is it makes you incapable in so many ways. There was a certain Israeli scientist who was researching on marijuana or cannabis. Over 18 years, the US Drug Administration gave him large quantities of marijuana and he went on experimenting, and 18 years' time he came up with really nothing significant. And during mid-80s, when American agencies were fighting drug on the street, they changed their policy of fighting the suppliers in Mexico and South America. They decided to fight on the street with the users. So they said, somebody said, this is not right, you're giving this man such a big stock, we don't know what he's doing, because he's not produced anything, 18 years of research. Then he moved to Israel. The Israeli government looked at his work and they decided to give him big stocks of marijuana. And after another 3.5, 4 years, he came up with this. He found that in the human brain, there are millions of cannabis receptors. Then he threw this question to various disciplines. Anthropologists tried to look at it and say, at some time in history, maybe every human being was smoking, that's why there are receptors. Then they said, this is rubbish, because in many parts of the world it was not there. Even an Eskimo has cannabis receptors where he has never seen anything like this. Then various things happened and the neurologists came up with this. They said, always the human brain is waiting for the cannabis, that which causes intoxication, not waiting for it from outside. It can generate from within, that is why there are receptors. So, this is something that we have always known. I can show you, I'm there always, but you look at my eyes, I'm always stoned. But as aware as anybody can be. If you do not know intoxication in life, you will never know a sense of abandon. If you don't have a sense of abandon, you will never walk full stride in your life. You will only walk half steps all the time. Only when there is no fear of suffering, because you're highly intoxicated and fully aware. Not because you consume substances which will take away your awareness, simply because you're keeping the system, the human mechanism at its highest function. Now it is fully self-sufficient, blissed out all the time. Now you will not think of all these things. I want you to look at this, all young people, I want you to look at this. In your life, would you like to do that which works or that which does not work? Human intelligence is always looking for that which works, isn't it? That which does not work is not what we are interested in, that which works. When I'm just wondering how far to take you, you look like a nice boy. It is just this. Every experience, whatever happens to you, right now, let's look at it this way. Right now, all of you, those who are in the upper regions also, do you see me? Even if you're not listening, do you see me? If you see me, can you use one of your hands and point out where I am? You also. Oh, you got it wrong. You know I'm a mystic from southern India. So, today you know, this light is falling upon me, reflecting, going through your lenses, inverted image in the retina, you know the entire story, isn't it? So you see me within yourself, you hear me within yourself. Where have you seen the whole world? Within yourself. The way it is projected in the firmament of your mind, you are not seeing the world the way it is, you are seeing it the way it's projected within you. A grasshopper may not be seeing the world the way you see it, he's seeing it differently. Yes or no? Same world, but he sees it differently because his visual apparatus are made completely different. You know that different animals hear, some hear subsonic sounds, some hear ultrasonic sounds. We don't hear both of them. Yes, we hear something else. So we are all living in the same world, but seeing and hearing things completely differently. What is day for us, what is light for us, is darkness for some other creature, what is darkness for them is light for us. Obviously, our instruments of perception are created for our survival process, and their instruments of survival are crafted for their survival process. But now your intelligence has blossomed to a place where survival is not good enough. You want to know the nature of life. Once this longing comes, then you must understand the instruments of perception need to be enhanced. These instruments, five senses of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting and touching, they are not good enough because they are only instruments of survival. They are not instruments of true knowing, because they show you everything in comparison. When I say everything in comparison, right now if you're 6 feet tall, you stand like a tall man, you walk like a tall man, you think like a tall man, you are a tall man. You went to another society where everybody is 8 feet tall. Suddenly you stand like a short man, walk like a short man, think like a short man, you are a short man, isn't it? I'm saying what you know in comparison is only good for survival process, not to know the nature of life. So right now, everything that you know is only by comparison. If I touch this, I feel it's cool. No, that's not the reality. The reality is, because my body temperature is in a certain way, I make a judgment that this is cool. Suppose I lower my body temperature substantially and then I touch this would be warm to me? Yes or no? So what you're perceiving is only by comparison. What you know by comparison is just a distortion of reality. It is good enough for survival, it is not good enough to know the nature of life. Now you're talking about stress and anxiety. As I said, every year we've been trekking in Himalayas. 2 years ago, I'm in a tent somewhere in Nepal and I'm doing some work. Someone else is cutting an apple. There's another person in the tent. That person tells this person, "Be careful, it's a very sharp knife." It irritates me, because I call something a knife only if it's sharp. What about you? I call something as a knife only if it's really sharp, otherwise I will call it a screwdriver. I look at this and then I continue my work, and another 2 minutes, again it is said, "Be careful, it's a very sharp knife." I say, "Come on, leave the man alone." If it's a child, yes. But this is a full-grown man, he knows how to handle a knife, not a complicated machinery. So, "No, Sadhguru, it's a very sharp knife." Then I continue my work. Another 2 minutes, I hear a whisper, "Be careful, it's a very sharp knife." Another 2 minutes, he cuts his hand. Then I give up. Why I'm saying this to you is, knife is not a sharp instrument. A knife is not a dangerous instrument. Every day in the world, both in terms of kitchens and operation theaters, tell me, are knives saving more lives or taking more lives? Saving more lives. In an irresponsible hand, it may take somebody's life. Knife is not dangerous. It is in whose hands it is. What kind of hand is it which makes it dangerous? Knife is not a dangerous instrument, yes or no? Only if an unsteady hand is handling, if a child holds a knife, we say be careful because… not because knife is dangerous, because the hand is not steady. Right now, this is the situation. Compared to every other creature on the planet, your intellect is little sharper than them. Would you like to have a sharp intellect or a dull one? Sharp. If you want a sharp intellect, you must learn to hold it right. Otherwise, every day you start poking, this is self-help, you know. When was the last time somebody stabbed you with a dagger in the… When was the last time somebody stabbed you with a dagger? Even in Delhi, it doesn't happen. Maybe somebody poked you with a pin at the most when you were in school, or maybe they ignored you, they did not even do that. So what I'm saying is, how much suffering is actually coming from outside? Minuscule, isn't it? Rest is all self-help. So once your intelligence turns against you, believe me, no force in the universe can save you. So it's very important, before you do anything else in your life, you learn to bring your body and mind to a state where your body takes instructions from you, your mind takes instructions from you. They must serve you, you should not be serving them. Otherwise, you will live a very poor life, because you can only live a life of some significance only when your mind and your body works for you, not against you, isn't it? At least this much every human being should take charge of.